All right, you guys ready?
Ready.
Let's do it. In 5, 4, 3. Welcome to the Dirty Sports Podcast. I am your host, Andy Ruther, coming to you live from the Smut Studio in Venice Beach, California, with my co-host, Joey No Chill Prano.
Hello, Andy.
I just saw you, man.
You just saw me yesterday. Yeah, we're going back-to-back days. You know, I like to have at least 72 hours in between our hangs, but, you know, we have a very special guest today.
We do.
We're making an exception. I'm seeing you more often than I'd like. I'm sitting in the middle seat. I feel like a whole new person.
You do. We have a returning guest. I believe this is his 4th time on the Dirty Sports Podcast. Shawne Merriman, welcome back, my friend.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
This all stemmed from, I feel like you're stoking the fire a little Phillip Rivers, Eli Manning discussion, which we're going to get to. But this is how this all came to be, right?
We got to tease it out.
Yeah, well, anytime I post something of Eli, you know, not really poking fun at him, but just, you know, kind of real facts about who's the better quarterback. You know, which people don't want to believe that because obviously Eli got the ring. So I know I'm going to get some pushback. Like every time I post something, like, oh, he got 2 rings.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about it. We're saying who's the better quarterback. And at the end of the day, Phillip's the better quarterback. But
Are we getting ready to do this right now?
Are we doing this?
I'm gonna take off. I got to get a little comfortable if we're gonna do this right now.
Whoa! What's he doing?
Oh, come on! See, look. Okay. So this would be one of the ones that will comment under the photos, right?
Yeah.
Because they're pro Eli for really one reason. That's the 2 rings, which I completely understand. He got 2 rings.
Yeah.
But we're talking about who's the better quarterback, and that's, you know, I'm not really poking fun. I think Eli's a good quarterback.
Yeah.
But he's not better than Phillip, and that's the case that I'm making.
So the question always arises because, and you always get, you know, become a part of it because obviously you were part of the Rivers Manning trade, and that's, you know, something that even as a Giants fan and possibly the world's biggest Eli Manning defender, I want to tackle right out of the gate is a lot of people say who won the trade, and that seems to quickly devolve into who of the 2 is the better quarterback, which I will say honestly, when it comes to who won the trade, while my team did get 2 Super Bowls and I'm very happy about the trade, you are actually a major factor in questioning who won the trade because really it was Eli Manning for Phillip Rivers, yourself, Nate Kading, and then it ended up being a 5th rounder that got traded for Roman Oben.
Right.
For 3 years of Roman Oben at, you know, from 2004 to 2007. So, you know, let's say Roman, great player, but like, you know, last 3 years of his career, we'll set him sort of aside in this discussion.
Yeah, he was pretty beat up.
Nate Kading, at one point, was the most accurate kicker in the history of the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you, like people who know Nate Kading's career, also well know that he was about 50-50 in the playoffs. So that kind of takes and also that gets into the kind of question of, is clutch a thing or not a thing, which I think factors into the whole conversation. But I will say the one thing is, as far as winning the trade goes, the fact that you were included in it, you were the 1st-round pick that they got, you go to multiple Pro Bowls. When you're talking about the trade, I think it's a more legitimate discussion because of your presence. When you're talking about saying who won the trade, just simply Rivers, Manning, that's where, you know, I know you're saying Rivers is a better quarterback and all that, but, you know, there's a lot of factors, and I'm not sure just looking at their statistical performances is the fair thing to do.
You know, is there anything different in stats? And I'm not even a stat guy.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, if we look, we can get nerdy. If you want, Shawne, we can get nerdy. And by that I mean, like, we can go down this stat thing. If you break down playoffs, and it's funny that we're having this conversation because Joe and I actually we put out just a separate YouTube video on this. If you break down the playoffs, I think this is where the discussion should be, is basically Eli has had a better overall playoffs, even just those 2 runs, than Phillip. And I'm not going to disagree. Regular season, I know I don't know what you're going to say as a Giants guy, as a New Yorker. I mean, Phillip has a much better regular season. But the problem is, if you look at playoffs, Eli just 2 runs. And the thing is, Phillip, I want to hear your take as a guy who played on the defense. Everyone has this notion that the Giants had such a great defense. A lot of those defenses, top 10, 11, 12 in points given up that you played a part of, you had some good squads. They just couldn't score points.
No, we had some probably the best squads in history. Not even of the history of the Chargers, but probably history of football.
Right.
And the only thing I'll say about that with the playoffs is when the Giants got to the playoffs, who do they have to play? Like, who do they have to play? Like, we had to see in our playoffs, we had to see the Pittsburgh Steelers, New England Patriots, and Indianapolis Colts. All three better teams than anybody the Giants had to play, right? So, of course, you're going to play better when you get to the playoffs because, for one, you play in a weak division that you can go 8-8 and still somehow make the playoffs.
Yeah.
9-7.
No, okay, now I mean, well, I had to make it sound bad, man. So 8-8, but 9-7, and still make the playoffs. 9-7, we won 9-7 my rookie year in 2005, and we didn't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
We just didn't have a shot. We were waiting on like 2 teams to actually lose in order for us to even think about getting in. You can actually in that NFC East, you can get in the playoffs at 9-7 legitimately. There's not another division. So when you get there as a Giants, who do they beat? Right? What teams?
Well, they beat the 15-1 Packers with Aaron Rodgers in Lambeau. 15-1. That was a pretty good team.
Yeah, but we also had the Colts who were that year they were undefeated, right?
Yeah.
One of the years they were undefeated. We had the Colts.
Yeah.
We had the Patriots, I think, who only lost 2 or 3 games that year. These are the teams we had to go through in order to when we got there, right?
I guess the question
well, the Colts were 15-1. Same thing. They sat their guys. The only true undefeated team was that Patriots team.
Right.
That was.
What was it, 07? Was it 07, 08?
But even that team.
18-0 until they lost to the New York Giants.
Right.
Even that team, Shawne.
I'll take my chance. By the way, I'll take my chances when we get there.
Right.
Like the year that we lost, I think to not the Patriots. We lost to I think it was Patriots. We would have had to play as some sort of like the Chicago Bears, like in the Super Bowl.
Right.
I mean,
no, absolutely.
So what I'm saying is,
that was the big knock on Manning's career up to the time is like he only has the one, and it was against a Rex Grossman-led Bears team in the rain and all that. So I guess here's my question for you, and this I think is a factor in when you're ranking quarterbacks or players in general is Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers. Their stats in the regular season are their stats in the regular season, and then you get to the playoffs. And Manning's playoff stats are significantly better than his regular season stats. Phillip Rivers' playoff stats are significantly worse than his regular season stats. So his quarterback rating goes from the mid-90s to the mid-70s in the playoffs, and begs the question, like, if you're arguing, for a player, especially a quarterback being the most important player on a team, he's handling the snap every single time. Are you saying that clutch just isn't a thing? Or
no, clutch is a thing, but who you're playing is like who you're playing. Like we played Ben Roethlisberger and that team up there. I think they were in 2008. They were stacked, right? They had Hines Ward. They had everybody, and we had to play the Colts when we talk about 15-1. We had to play all top-notch contenders. We had no layup games by the time we got there. Like no one.
But I think the difference is if you really look at it, kind of like I was saying earlier. You guys, as a defensive unit, you played well. Like I pulled it up, which I find interesting. That game against the undefeated Patriots in New England, you guys held that. That was the highest scoring offense in the history of the NFL. It was 14-12 after 3 quarters.
Yeah.
So my argument could be made. You did your job. Look at the numbers. Brady was 22 of 33. 209 yards, 3 interceptions. Randy Moss had 1 catch. So I guess the thing Joe and I are saying is, by the way, we both think Phillip Rivers is a Hall of Famer. So
yeah, and without a doubt.
That eased the pain a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is only a question that we're even having a discussion because we're talking about players that are some of the best of all time at their position, and how they survived in a world playing the Mannings and the Roethlisbergers and the Bradys and the Rodgers and the Brees. Also, in my opinion, some of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But like Andy's saying, you guys did your job, and people always say, oh, the Giants defense, how good they were. The thing about the 2 Giants Super Bowls, and the reason that Giants fans will forever love Eli Manning, is that they were still down in both those Super Bowls, and then this guy gets the ball back and he drives down the field.
Eli is a clutch. Always have been a clutch player. He can stink it up for 3 quarters, and somehow in that 4th quarter he comes back and does something miraculous every single time. I mean, even the times that we beat them. I remember, I think in 2007 and 2000, maybe 2009, we were there and we played them somewhere around there, and we had a closeout game towards the end. But he was marching down the field. He was doing. He's a clutch player. I'll give him that. But that's why I'm pushing. That's why I hope that Phillip wins at least one, right? Because if he wins at least one, then this is not really a conversation anymore. And he just needs one because his stats are more superior.
Sure.
He's been a better quarterback for a longer period of time. And you just, in this day and age, you need that one to get the monkey off your back.
Yeah.
And once that happens, I was at the Hall of Fame 2 times, right? I was there for LaDainian Tomlinson, and I was there for Ray Lewis's both times. And I hear the conversations of is Phillip, and I was asked the question when I was there, is Phillip Rivers even a Hall of Fame quarterback? I'm like, what are you talking about?
Right.
Yeah, he is.
Why is that even a conversation?
I mean, to me, I think, and honestly, I think the argument's against. I think both Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers and Ben Roethlisberger, those guys from that class, who all, for the majority of their career, their stats have all been in the same realm as far as career accolades in terms of moving up the touchdowns list, moving up the yardage list. These guys are both all top 7, in everything. Like the idea that these guys, especially Roethlisberger having multiple rings, Eli having multiple rings, Phillip Rivers being statistically superior to both of them in the regular season and career accolades, like how are you saying that these guys aren't in the Hall of Fame? Joe Namath's in the Hall of Fame. He's got more interceptions than he's got touchdowns. People go, oh, well, Eli Manning's record's 500. It's like, so is Warren Moon's.
Right.
And everybody agrees Warren Moon 100% belongs in the Hall of Fame, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
It's like the idea that you're going to look at top 7 statistical quarterbacks ever and say that for some reason somebody's not in the Hall of Fame. And I get wins and losses matter, and that's the big knock on Eli Manning's career, is that he is a 500 quarterback.
Right.
But the name of the game is Super Bowl or bust, because all the teams are selling out all their games no matter what, essentially, right? So you just got to get in, and then you got to do it when you get there. And I guess again it comes down to you're a former Charger, you're friends with Phillip Rivers, you've talked about it on the show, but is there any sort of truth to Phillip Rivers has his playoff shrinking, if you will? Because you guys had great defenses, and then people always say, oh, the Giants had these teams. What about the offenses, man?
Yeah.
LaDainian Tomlinson was the best offensive player that anybody had ever seen at the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought they should have won last year. Honestly, I mean, if that team, if the Chargers are healthy towards the end of the year, and they got their middle linebacker, Perryman, they got some of the D linemen, and they're healthy, they didn't have to throw in an extra defensive back to try to stop the run, which didn't help. I felt they had a chance last year. Last year, to me, was one of their best shots probably since 2006, those mid-2000s, to me, in the way this team is built. And they're back again like that. They're back on that same way. They have the same stacked team. It just matters at that point in time, in the middle towards the end of the season, who's healthy or not. And that's what it's going to come down to. So, I get it that Eli is always going to have the upper hand because of the rings. But, like I said, Phillip gets that one, and it's a different conversation, in my opinion. And it's no hate against Eli, right? I think I played against him many times. He's a clutch quarterback, and he comes up at the right time. Even if he, like I said, stinks stuff for 3 quarters, he will go out and make those right plays just enough for the team to win. And that gets the monkey off his back, even though he's a 500 quarterback.
And, I think a lot of people don't consider how much of these things, people look back and they look at a season's record or how it ended, and they kind of judge everything on that. As a Giants fan, I know that something that is very frustrating as a fan for a lot of times when it doesn't work out is the Giants are an organization that go, hey, we just have to get in the playoffs. This guy's banged up, so we're going to sit him. And you're like, man, we really need JPP out there this week, or we really need OC out there this week. And they're like, we got to hold him out. We got to hope to make the playoffs and then be healthy. And that was something that, especially on that first Super Bowl team that beat the undefeated Patriots, they were on the verge of missing the playoffs, and they're holding these guys out. But then everybody comes back healthy in the playoffs, and suddenly this is a different defensive line, and they're going. And people just go, oh, the worst team to ever win a Super Bowl. They were 10-6. Like, they were also banged up, as opposed to sometimes you get the 13-3, 14-2 team that gets there, and they get banged up right before the playoffs, and then you're shit out of luck.
I remember like it was yesterday when we played the Patriots in 2007. How many of us was on the training table before that game to get some kind of cream or something just to play?
Yeah.
And my knee was tore to shreds. Phil had the partially torn ACL.
Yeah.
He had scope the week before the game. Gates' foot was jacked up. LT's knee was. I mean, we were all sitting back on the training table looking at each other like we still got to go out here and do this, right? And we found a way to help, hold the Patriots to what we held them to. And like I said again, even back then, it just comes down to health. You look at some of these guys, like our teams that we had, and we were just, when it was clutch time, we were all banged up. And the teams like the Patriots and the Giants and all the people who did win championships were, for the most part, healthy and got some of their guys back.
Do you put anything into Joe's talking about the clutch thing. Like as a guy who played with Phillip, do you think he's we might as well just say, do you think he's less clutch than Eli when it comes down? Because if you look at the actual on the road, and actually I was surprised by this too, Shawne. I looked this up last night and I told Joe, Eli Manning, and this is probably going to shock a lot of our listeners, has the highest winning percentage of active quarterbacks on the road in the playoffs. He's 7-2, and Phillip's 3-4, which isn't bad. It's not easy to win on the road in the playoffs, but would you, like, for someone who's going to argue Eli, would that be the ultimate argument then, that he's going to find a way to win on the road in the playoffs?
Yeah. No, I mean, you can definitely argue that. I'm not, there's no disputing that. And like I go back to, Eli is a clutch quarterback.
Yeah.
He won, I've seen him just snap out of it and make some big plays, and you haven't seen.
I always say it's sort of and I don't mean this as a diss, he's sort of an idiot savant. He has an idiot look on his face. Everybody goes, the Eli Manning face. You're like, what's he doing out there? And then he goes Rain Man on you.
And then you know what? People forget about those 3 quarters.
Yeah.
And one thing I've always said about Phillip, especially early on in his career, Phillip is one of the most, if not the most competitive person I've ever played with, ever. And I'm talking about out of all positions. He hates to lose. And sometimes when you're that competitive, you go and do things that, you can try to force things in between double coverage or just throw it away sometimes with doing certain things.
Sort of the Brett Favre
mentality.
Yeah,
sort of that mentality because, he's just so damn competitive. He just did not want to lose. And that sometimes hurt him. And I think that was mostly early on in his career. He doesn't – if you watch Phillip's last 4 years, he's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
He hasn't been. I mean, last he's still putting up star quality numbers. He's still throwing numbers out of this roof. And he's doing it now with less mistakes. If you look at his last 3-4 years, he's making less mistakes.
And I think that's also something that when you're looking at both of these guys' careers, that's something that not enough people factor in. It's like these guys were neck and neck for a while. Even in career statistics and how they were playing, like year in and year out, they're right there. Eli Manning has had a rough couple of years. Is he done? Is he washed? Or are the Giants terrible? Is it some combination of the two? That's all, up for debate, and we'll find out, obviously, this year. In that time, Phillip Rivers is surging. As Eli Manning's falling, Phillip Rivers is, in a sense, like you said, still getting better. And, that in the long run, when you look back at their entire careers, that's absolutely going to be a factor. But like you said, he still needs that one. Because right now in the playoffs, and we all kind of seem to agree that Eli Manning has a clutch gene. But do you think there's any truth to that at some point in his career, Phillip Rivers had a lack of a clutch gene, that he was not showing up for you guys in the playoffs?
No, it was just the opposite way. I mean, for one, we wasn't healthy, including himself. And I'm not talking about like the 06 game against the Patriots. We had a couple penalties. Obviously, I hate to bring it up because people won't stop bringing it up. But Marlon McCree, what doesn't go down at the end when we intercept the ball, game over, we advance to the playoffs. Just those things aren't put into Phillip Rivers stats that we're not putting in there at all. We're not even talking about it. But the truth of the matter,
Kading's field goal.
Those things aren't, but it'll go against Phillip,
sure,
because he's a star of the team. He's a starting quarterback for us, and he's our leader. And so when you're putting the Mount, the Mount Rushmore of quarterbacks, right, and he's not up there for whatever reason, those mishaps that we had as a team won't be up there. Like, hey, by the way, these penalties here. By the way, this missed field goal here, or this missed tackle, or offsides penalty, whatever we had, is all going to go against Phillip. And that's why I'm just rooting for him to get this one, to get the monkey off his back.
Yeah. And also, he's got to get there first.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's also the factor, and, we were just talking about sort of quarterback ranks forever. Like, Drew Brees has had this insane career, and that penalty at the end of the Rams game is crazy. But he's got his one Super Bowl, but he's also only been to one Super Bowl. You look at these guys, Roethlisberger's got a couple, and he was in an extra. Brady has the 3 losses now, but all the wins. It's like getting to the Super Bowl is hard. Jim Kelly's in the Hall of Fame because he has great stats, but also because he went to 4 Super Bowls. Everybody knows everything's out the window once you get there. There's 2 weeks, the whole media, everybody's getting in trouble and the whole thing. But Phillip Rivers, and a guy who's wearing an Eli Manning Ole Miss jersey, as a Giants fan, I love to think.
I love the look on Sean's face. I love that look right there.
I love to think we get Phillip Rivers and we get you in a Giants jersey. You wouldn't have been able to wear 56, but you would have looked good in a Giants jersey.
Yeah.
That we still get some Super Bowls. But I don't know. All I know is I got 2, and I'm like, you know what? San Diego Chargers can throw beer at me whenever I come in my Eli Manning Ole Miss jersey, but I'm going to deflect it with my Super Bowl ring.
Right. Yeah, and that's always – even when I post things here and there, and I'm not done posting them, I'm sure I'm going to have more, especially when the season gets closer or not. But, that's always going to be like the way out, right? That's an argument that I'm never going to be able to win.
Sure.
And even when I post or I mess around and talk about it, I know that I'm going to take some heat just for that. But the debate is still open, and I still firmly believe that Phillip's a better quarterback.
Well, let's talk this year. Let's kind of move the conversation. I was like you, Sean. Last year, I cursed them. I cursed teams, and it's bad. I picked the Chargers to make it to the Super Bowl. I liked them a lot. Like you were saying, Phillip's playing great right now. They have a stacked team. How are you feeling about them this year? Obviously, very difficult division with the Chiefs.
Yeah. And
the Broncos will be improved. God knows what will be with the Raiders. But do you like their chances again this year?
Yeah, I do. And I'll go back to the matchups that we had against the Colts, right? Even when they were undefeated back in the mid-2000s, that we just always matched up well against them, right? You had great quarterback. You had a great wide receiver, great tight end. But what do we have? We had great cornerbacks. We had a great pass rush. And we had a great D-line, right? So we had everything against them. And I look at the Kansas City Chiefs and the Chargers matchup as well. The Chargers defensive backs, to me, is the best D-back core in the NFL, all across the board. They're the best. What do the Chiefs have? They have a great quarterback. They got a great tight end, great, fast, speedy wide receiver, right? But you got the best DBs. So the matchups across the board, and you got great pass rushers with Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa.
Yeah.
To get to Patrick Mahomes, so he didn't have all time to throw the ball. So it sounds crazy, but that is a great matchup for them. If you didn't have a pass rush, you're probably in trouble. If you got a weak link, just one weak link at cornerback, you're in trouble because they're going to move Tyreek Hill around, and you're going to have Travis Kelce. He's going to get moved around, and they're going to expose your weak link. The Chargers across the board, they don't have a weak link when you get back there. You just hope that the guys are healthy when it happens, because that's the only difference. In I said last year the Broncos wasn't a bad team, but in this league you need a quarterback. You need a quarterback to do something, right? He doesn't have to be an all-star, doesn't have to be lighting it up out there, but you have to have something because they got a great defense. They got also one of the best pass rushes in the game with Von Miller, and the rest of the guys over there too. I mean, they got a three-headed monster. They can just get after the quarterback at any given time, right? So now you got a quarterback that's going to put some points on the board so those guys can get after you. So that has to be a little scary for Phillip because, I'm not going to say Flacco's going to go out there and light it up, but he's going to give you something better than what you had last year. And that something better might be 2 games for them. Just hopefully those wins against the Raiders,
right.
and not the Chargers.
And it's sort of we keep coming back to the same sort of ideas as the way people evaluate talent in the NFL. I think a lot of people do look at stats, and that's all they care about, stats and Super Bowl wins and whatever. But you're talking about Flacco. I think the lay football fan is like, Flacco's washed. This is a disastrous move. Why would you even give him that money? But he's a veteran quarterback. Like you said, he's maybe not gonna light it up. But I often say to Andy, like, look at the teams that have won Super Bowls with the highest, throwing passer in the league. Like, it tends to not be those guys who have the crazy numbers because that tends to mean that your team isn't that balanced. And so, we look through all the years, Phillip Rivers, these, passing numbers throughout his career. Drew Brees, these passing numbers throughout his career. And then you've got, how many quarterbacks who have that sort of game manager mentality or the game manager numbers, and they end up coming out, with the Super Bowl ring at the end of the year. Do you think that Flacco can be for the Broncos a game manager type of quarterback, play mistake-free football, or do you think he's going to go in there and try to throw it in the light air?
No,
70 yards down.
I think he's going to do them some good. And I believe Flacco's whole problem in the first place was you had a young rookie that was coming in that they drafted him to take your job, and that is very difficult to go out and go about your business every day. You're asking a guy to be a pro. Push for the team, don't get your head down and stay positive when you're already grooming a guy right behind him, and you showed me by drafting him in the first round. You do that, and it's hard to go out and play football. I don't care who you are. You can look at this competition and all this stuff because at the end of the day, unless that rookie is just terrible, he has to be flat-out garbage in order for Flacco to stay there. If he does anything remotely good or even shows flashes of he can play, you're gone. So how much can you continue to give a team? You can try to and go out every day with the best positive attitude, but every mistake that you make, you're further away from the depth chart, you're further away from the team. And you can't play like that, especially at quarterback, because that is a very mental position where you have to be mentally in tune and you have to forget the last play and move on, but you can't forget that last play because that last play might have just cost you your job.
Now, since you brought it up, that was obviously the situation with the Ravens last year. What do you think of Lamar Jackson? Obviously, the sort of his energy and just the change of pace for the Ravens last year, and they sort of started running the ball, almost exclusively with him. They relied on their defense. Do you think this is a long-term plan for success? Can they get by running what I've essentially said it's not even a college offense. Like, college offenses are more explosive than that. They're essentially running a high school offense where they're like, we're going to play D, we're going to run the ball, this guy's not going to make a mistake. Is this a long-term plan for success in the NFL?
I think that they drafted him knowing that was going to be the case, at least for the first couple of years, that they were going to, until he picks up on the offense and, be able to stand back there and deliver in the pocket and not think, he's not, I wouldn't even call him a run-first guy, but knowing that you can run, it's easy to make that decision once you're check downs and certain things aren't there. And it's here, okay, that's not there, I'm taking off, right? As opposed to another quarterback who is a pocket passer, is like that. Number one, my options, they're not there. Number two, number three, and then I can take off, run, or throw the ball away. And his is, okay, that one's not there, I'm out. And I think they understood that when they brought him in here. The good thing of it is that he can make plays, so it's not affecting them. So if they can get by, right, and mind you, the Ravens that won the Super Bowl back in, 2002 or 2000, whatever it was.
Yeah, 2000.
They averaged 11 or 12 points on offense a game for that year. Obviously had, the greatest middle linebacker that ever played a game. And
right.
Ed Reed back there, but they have a solid defense this year.
Yeah.
And most teams that have built their teams on running the ball and playing great defenses, this is your mentality going forward. Like, this is who you are. This is your identity now. And to change the quarterback position of what they brought him in for, and they knew he was going to have to play like that for the first 2 or 3 years, it doesn't make any sense. So I think that's their game plan going forward, at least for at least one more year.
And as a defensive player, obviously the game in the NFL has changed. There's a lot more run-pass option, and quarterbacks are a little – they're not maybe running quarterbacks as much as it's an ability to run. As a defensive player, when you know a quarterback might take off, is that something that you're annoyed with because that's something else you got to think about? Or are you kind of licking your chops going, we know we're going to get some shots at him, and maybe we take him out of this game?
Yeah, there's it's very annoying as a pass rusher because we have to rush in our pass rush lanes. We can't go under or try to beat a tackle because he's stepping out too far, or you coming up and under, or go, run a stunt inside, because as soon as you give up that edge, he's taking off. And this is not going to be a gain of 5. It's going to be a gain of 15+ every time he does, especially when you lose your pass rushing lanes. The good thing of it is that when you know he's going to run, you stay in your pass rush lanes and you wait for him to come to you, because he will. That's what I always did. If we played a guy that I knew was a run first, then pass, or that was his kind of his specialty, what he was really good at, I'm just going to run up the field, or I'm going to run right down the tackle, and I'll let you scramble and run right into me, and I'll grab your legs and bring you down. It's simple as that. Now, can you rush like that every time? No, but I like my chances. And anybody who's playing them this year, that will be the key. Stay in your pass rush lane and let him run to you, because as soon as he feels pressure, he's going to look to get out of the pocket. Now, you can't do that with the guy that's going to stand back there in the pocket, because you'll never get to him, and he has all day to throw the ball.
Well, we're talking about guys who can run and scramble. I think that's a natural transition to talk Dak Prescott. I know you have a lot of – I know you were just saying as we went in the elevator, you got obviously a lot of opinions on that. This was the news yesterday. Joe and I have already talked at length, so we'd love to hear.
I'm a Giants fan, so I say give him $50 million.
Yeah.
I want to give him all the money.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you think about these demands from a guy who statistically really hasn't, crushed it on the field?
Well, and this is going to piss a lot of the Cowboys fans off, and I wish they wasn't so delusional sometime, right? Because I've talked about it plenty of times. I do like Dak Prescott as a leader, right? I mean, he's a natural-born leader. He's who you want to lead your football team. He just has that persona. He takes charge. He plays hard, and he'll go out there and lay it on the line for you, and you'll play with a guy like that. But that isn't taking the fact that he is an average or above average quarterback. And I always said he's a $22 to $25 million a year. If they gave him $22 million a year, I would say that's about right, based on not only of his talent level, but based on the other people that's around him and who they have to take care of. You pay him 22, and now you got money for Zeke, you got money to keep Amari and some of these other guys. And I think that they were paying the DN Lawrence, right? They gave him $100 million or something like that.
Yeah,
they're starting to take care of the guys in priority who they need for the future, and Dak needs people around him. So if you need people around you, I think that you fall in between that $22 and $25 million quarterback. When you start asking for 30 plus, and I'm not even going to go across to 40 million because I knew that was BS. I didn't believe
that's just a negotiation.
I don't even think he can. I think that was made up maybe from the other side, the Cowboys negotiation, to make it seem like Dak is just out of his mind.
Make sure he sees the tweets.
Make sure
everybody with the
clown
emojis
because I mean they lit him up. Because when he was asking for 32, people were like he lost his mind. At 40, you really lost it.
Dak.
Yeah,
you're drunk.
Well, you really lost it. So, when I say that he's a $22 to $25 million quarterback, only the Cowboy fans get pissed off, right? How are you going to say that? And he's an above average quarterback, right?
I guess, and that's actually what I had said yesterday. I had literally said I'd pay him 25, nothing above that. I guess the big question for someone like Dak, and Joe and I like to play this game, which I think is fun, of, put him on a different team. Like you made a great point, Shawne, saying he's got a pretty good defense. He's got Ezekiel Elliott. He's got Amari Cooper. He has great pieces around him. You take Dak Prescott and his ability, and you put him on, let's say, who's going to be a bad team this year? Let's say you put him on the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, how many games do they win?
Not much. They probably won't do better than they did last year. I mean, seriously, because there was nothing around them. And that's what I keep saying about Dak. I mean, as long as he have a running back, he has Amari, he has a defense, not only what Lawrence, but also the two inside linebackers, who are my two favorite guys to watch play. I mean, these guys are just studs with Smith and Van Der Esch. These guys can play. So if you got a team like that built around Dak, if I'm Dak Prescott and I know that I can potentially lose Ezekiel Elliott, I can lose Amari, I can lose one of these two interior guys, I'm taking less anyway.
What's the Tom Brady mentality?
Yeah, I'm taking less because I want that team around me and I want to have that support group. You start asking for 30 plus, then one or two of those guys are gone just because of salary cap. It's not that they don't want to keep everybody, but one or two of those guys are gone. And now it's much harder for them to figure out, not even counting offensive line, that's probably top 3 in the NFL. So you start talking about 30 plus. These are the guys who I see 30 plus million. And I saw the list the other day, but the Drew Brees of the world, I think Matt Ryan was up there, right, or somewhere close to it.
Yeah.
I rate him maybe a little bit under a Matt Ryan, right? Because when you start going over there and you talk about 30 plus, you mean elite quarterbacks who don't need a whole lot around them to win football games.
Yeah.
And that's how I, kind of.
So now here's my question for you as a guy who played in league, as a guy who, had to work his contract and had his contract demands. Obviously, it's very easy to step back and say, oh, okay, Dak's not better than Matt Ryan, and Dak's not better than Aaron Rodgers, and Dak's not better than Drew Brees. But if you're a player and you're Dak and you see the second highest paid quarterback in all of football is Kirk Cousins, how do you come to grips with the fact that, the Vikings gave Kirk Cousins $33 million, but it's crazy for me to ask for $30 million?
Yeah, well, Kirk Cousins, before he got to the Vikings, was also lighting it up and was put on 2 or 3 contracts, 1-year contracts, in order to get that. You look, if Dak goes out and tear it up this year and then puts up the numbers, then he should be somewhere in the top 5 highest paid quarterbacks, just based on where the market is right now. If he tears it up this year, where he's at right now in the years that even though they got the wins, right? Even though they have, his winning percentages, he had a great winning percentage, but you can't count the fact. And I'm talking about, I'm sitting up in the office, or in the front office on the Dallas Cowboys side. What they're going to say? They're going to look at that defense and see how great they've been over the past couple of years. They're going to look at the offensive line and see they're one of the best offensive line in the whole NFL. They're going to look at Zeke, and they're going to look at Amari coming in. Look at all these people we put around you.
Yeah.
If you take this has to go. I mean, it's a negotiation tool that the Cowboys going to use, and they're right. And I'm not siding with the team. And I love for players to get paid, but this is what they're going to say, and they'll be right.
Right.
Well, I was going to say, the point you made yesterday, I thought, what you're basically doing again is great, because it's maybe in the long run you take less, but you're going to be there longer and have more guarantees because you have a team around you.
If you get $30 million and you don't succeed, they're going to pull that plug. Whereas if you take 20 and you keep winning 11, 12, 13 games a year, they're going to keep you forever. And the thing I think that, not enough people talk about is, first of all, Dak went 13-3 his first year. And that was when, Zeke was also a rookie. Tony Romo goes down. Their defense plays pretty good. Their offensive line that year was incredible. Best in the league. Last 2 years, they get a couple offensive line injuries, and it's 10-6. It's 9-7. And what I'm saying to Dak, if I'm the Dallas Cowboys, is, okay, I get it. We had some injuries on the offensive line, but if you take $40 million or $30 million, it's not about them being injured. It's they got to go because we can't pay them.
Right.
So now you don't have the best offensive line in the league. And wasn't it a lot easier when you did?
Yeah, and those are our real reasons. This is not we just trying to negotiate against you to pay you less money, because I'm sure they love Dak. Dak is he's the face of the franchise. He's the type of guy that they're looking for that fits in what they're trying to build. But the truth of the matter is, there's a salary cap, and you start requesting $30+ million. Somebody in this core is going to go, and that's not even just that's just the honest truth of what's going to happen.
When you're on the defensive side of the ball, obviously the quarterback's going to be basically the highest paid player on the team, regardless, unless they're coming on a rookie contract. How does it feel, like just being there and like always looking at across the locker room at this guy who's just like always going to get the most money? Is that something that's like you obviously had Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
You know, when you look across the locker room, like that guy has earned every penny. I want him to be as rich as he possibly can. Or are you thinking like, I hope Phil like takes it easy on us? It'd be great to have another corner this year.
No, we don't. The players never get involved in that type of stuff. I mean, you want to see guys get paid. You're actually rooting for everybody to get paid. You're not saying you're not trying to play front office, right?
But you're a smart guy. You know, not everybody can get paid.
Yeah, you know, not everybody can get paid. But you know, if it happens where you got a quarterback that's saying, you know, I'm not coming in or I'm not doing certain things unless I get paid, then you might have some kind of a problem with that. But you know that the quarterback position is going to get paid, and not even just the big money. You have this because of the market where it's at. You see some of the average guys. I mean, you look across the board and you see an average guy getting 16, 17 a year, and you're like, what? They haven't been to the playoffs in 5 years, or you know, whatever the case is. So,
I mean, Matthew Stafford's the highest paid quarterback in football. He's got 0 playoff wins.
yeah, and but you know they paid him based off of his talent, what he can
Sure.
do. But at the end of the day, you look at that and say, when the last time they've been to the playoffs?
Yeah.
Well, the contract thing is interesting when it comes to running backs. And I love your take. Obviously, we have something going on here with Gordon, with the Chargers. Zeke's going on with a contract dispute. And we've taken some deep dives looking at it. Are the running backs really worth it? Because a lot of these teams, you can plug in a player if you have a good O-line.
Yeah,
And that's nothing against these guys. These are great running backs.
Right.
But you know what I'm saying? Like if you're an owner of a team, are you giving the running back who is also susceptible to injury, are you giving them all that money?
yeah. Well, you got to change the length of their contract and how you look at it. But in this day and age, the running back position has gotten devalued so much, right? Because you had a couple teams here or there that just plug in a running back and they've been able to still win. You know, even when the Pittsburgh Steelers had James Conner back there, you know, all due respect to James Conner, he plays hard. He's a great, you know, guy to come in now to fill in for Le'Veon Bell, but he's not Le'Veon Bell. He's just not. You know, Le'Veon Bell can do everything. Le'Veon Bell is a threat every time he touches the ball. And James Conner is a guy that you can come in and not take a big hit because you don't have Le'Veon Bell and you have a great team around him. But at the end of the day, you know the difference as a former defensive player. I'm looking in the backfield. If I see James Conner, if I see Le'Veon Bell, there's a difference. And you're just because Le'Veon is back there, you don't do certain things in your defensive scheme. You know that he can go out to the slot position or catch a ball out the backfield and turn it into a 15 to 20-yard gain every time he touches the ball. You don't worry about that as much with James Conner. I believe if they had Le'Veon Bell last year, they probably went to the playoffs because Le'Veon Bell himself is good for about 1 or 2 games. They were 1 or 2 games short from missing the playoffs. So I think in that case, because you've seen the Patriots plug somebody back there and still being able to do it, you've seen some other teams here and there, once in a blue moon.
Broncos did it for years.
Well,
Who did the Broncos? Okay, you found in the running back they have now, you found a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
You didn't expect. No one expected that.
Phillip Lindsay.
Yeah, Phillip Lindsay. That dude he can flat out play, and no one expected that. So, if it was anyone else and they're trying to prove that theory, try finding another.
Well,
Phillip
I think the
Lindsay.
running back position also got devalued because there was about a 10-year stretch there where every single team that won, with the exception of maybe the Seahawks and Marshawn Lynch, it was sort of a running back by committee thing. And the teams that had the best running back in the league, not to, pour salt in your wounds again, but Chargers having LaDainian Tomlinson, the teams that had these guys who were doing otherworldly things from the running back position aren't making the Super Bowl. And the teams with guys who are like, hey, we're going to go with Brandon Jacobson, Derek Ward and Ahmad Bradshaw and spend that money on defense.
Right.
Those guys are getting there. The Colts, the Broncos, even the Steelers where they had old Bettis and these guys and the Patriots for all their teams. But now I think, and you bring up Bell versus Connor, I think the one thing that has brought the running back, if you will, is these guys who are such a factor in the passing game.
Yeah.
Saquon, Gurley, Le'Veon Bell. These guys were like, they're more than just running off tackle. There's so much that they're able to do. And, certainly we've seen some huge contracts for the running back.
Yeah, and there should be, because you have some guys who just flat out special, who can do multiple things like that. And look at how many the passing attempts now to running attempts. I mean, I remember back in the mid-2000s when I was playing and we played the Chiefs, they lined up in power set, I formation with Willie Rowe, Brian Waters, right? Priest Holmes back there and Tony Richardson, and they were running the ball. And then Dunn, they had a tight end that was 6'7", almost 300 pounds. And they would just run the ball, 30-plus times a game and wouldn't care. Now the game is different. So if you're taking a running back out of the equation and you're throwing the ball 65 or 70%, I don't know what the percentage is around there, then, the running back position isn't important. But what people just – the factor of having a guy back – you talking about Bettis, I'll get the craziest Bettis story is my rookie year we played them. And I'm coming from college, and I'm used to lighting everybody up. I don't care. If I get you one-on-one, it's over. I had Jerome Bettis in open field my rookie year, and I just try to jump and leave my feet and do one of my arm tackles, and he dragged me 4 or 5 more yards. And Bettis was at the end of his career then.
You caught the bus.
I caught the bus, and I didn't have a ticket.
All aboard.
I didn't have a ticket to be on, and that ticket almost expired. No one kicked me off, and they kept running. So even Bettis back then, and we're talking about presence. And I'll go back to Melvin Gordon. Right in his contract situation. If the Chargers wasn't so good around the board, they would have paid him 2 weeks ago. The fact is that they are so good. They have 3 wide receivers that can start on any football team in the NFL. You got Hunter Henry, who's back, top 5 to me, top 5 tight end. You got
we know Stephen A. Smith's excited about that.
Yeah, yeah. But so you have this team that's so stacked that you're looking and saying, okay, how many games can we win without having to pay Melvin Gordon? And Austin Eckler came in and shocked a lot of people. He's another guy who can catch the ball at the backfield, so he's valuable there. But Melvin Gordon being in that backfield, and as a defensive player, you're like, okay, this dude might get the ball and run downhill right now because he runs so damn hard. So now his presence is back there. Austin Eckler is good. I mean, he can play flat out. He's energetic. He brings life to the team. And he can do a lot of things, including catching the ball at the backfield. He can move him around, and he runs these wheel routes down the field and run past linebackers. You can forget about it. And you can say the same on the opposite side of Melvin Gordon. He's not that great out the backfield catching the ball, but that first and second down, you need those 4 or 5 yards and hits in order to get in those third and short situations. Melvin Gordon is a guy that you need in that backfield.
And you need him late in the season. Keep
Late
that
in the
ball
season,
out of Phillip Rivers' hands in the fourth quarter. Since you brought up Melvin Gordon, I think it's, again, a good transition into another story. Obviously, Antonio Brown and the Raiders, he's in practice. He's not in practice. He's not playing because of his feet, because he has frostbite from a cryo chamber. He's not playing because of his helmet. How much of an effect does it have on you in the locker room and the locker room as a whole when you're in training camp and guys aren't there for whatever the reason may be?
Well, it's like this. You know what you're getting before he gets there, right? It's not a secret. And for these things to happen, you're not like, oh my God, I can't believe. I mean, it's Antonio Brown. That's what you get with the package. But you also get probably the hardest working guy in the NFL, or one of. Who come to practice every day when he's healthy, and he goes and he produces. He put up the numbers. So it's the give and take, right, where you are okay in a sense. I'm not saying you're giving him a pass, but you're okay in a sense because this guy, he's so highly productive. He can do so many great things with the football and your team. So, okay, what are you willing to deal with in order for him to keep going out and producing? And he can do this for a long time if he goes out and keeps producing. The problem is that when you're making these demands, say, I'm not going to play unless I get this kind of helmet, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that, and then you stop producing just even a little bit, that's your fastest ticket out of the NFL. They'll get you out, and I don't care how big your name is, they'll get you out of it faster than if you were a guy who couldn't play at all.
Is the helmet that big of a deal? Obviously, neither of us have played. You excelled at the highest level. Is
I
there?
played in high school, but you know.
Well, I mean, come on.
No, I'm just kidding.
Is there anything to that, Shawne? Is there anything to a guy in his helmet? I recently saw the latest interview with Tom Brady, in a way saying, "Yeah, man, like, you know, you get used to your helmet. It kind of becomes your thing." Was that ever the case with you? Did you ever have a helmet that you didn't want to give up?
No, but I've had cleats that I wouldn't play in, right? I had cleats that I wouldn't practice in because they would hurt my feet or things like
And
that.
these
So,
are cleats that they were saying, hey, these are the ones we want everybody
yeah,
to wear.
you know, you get 3 or 4 pair from Nike or something like that, and you just have some cleats that you don't want to wear, even though you had different options. And I use this analogy when you come to Antonio Brown, and I don't like the way he went about it, and I think that's his problem. It's not what he do, it's how he go about it. If he went to him and, hey, said, this is really causing a problem, guys, like, I don't know how I'm going to play. When you lay down the line and say, I'm not going to do this unless I get this.
Yeah.
That's where, the steam comes from. That's when the big things happen. If you come to him and say, look, this is going to be really hard for me and kind of talk about the situation, then it eases the pain of what's going on. When you have a doctor or any kind of surgeon or anything out here and he's using utensils like his tools that he's performing surgery with, he can't do it unless he has the right tools. Do you go to him and say, you got your problem? Every time you come in to do surgery, you always complain about these the stencil, or whatever they use. I don't know the terms of it. Do you complain about this? So I don't believe in no other profession. If you're a perfectionist in what you do, you want the best equipment so you can go to work. And it doesn't come across like that because he sometimes, no pun intended, but shoot himself in the foot, right?
Yeah.
With a lot of stuff that he does, because he's right in the sense. If that helmet or that face mask or whatever that problem is disturbing you even 5 or 10% of you trying to be the best wide receiver in the NFL, then yes, there's a problem.
What percentage of this, and we talked about this on the show yesterday, do you think that there's any portion of this that's like, hey, my feet are fucked up and I can't practice and I'm not going to be there. It's not healthy for me to be there. And I need an excuse to not be there. I'm going to create this helmet thing and this helmet thing. Will everybody talk about my helmet while my feet heal? Or do you think this is just a combination of two things happening at once? He's hurt and he's got a helmet thing and he's not going to play.
Yeah, well, it's a combination because he can just say his feet hurt and he can't practice. And he showed a picture of his feet. I don't think nobody's going to deny that part of it.
But it's sort of a self-inflicted wound.
It's self-inflicted wound. Stuff happens. I get in the cryo machine and I got stuff for him, but I can easily, if I'm tired after the workout or something I'm doing, and I walk in there and I could forget putting on my shoes and I could stay in there 3 minutes instead of the 2-minute period, and something like that can happen. It's possible. If you go to the team and say, guys, I made a mistake. I got in this cryo machine and I didn't think it would do this, but it hurt my feet and I can't practice. No one's going to come down on him and say, we're going to fine you because you can't. Like, no, that happens. And you just want him to get healthy and get ready to go back out there. I don't think those two issues have nothing to do with each other.
Now, you talked about him being sort of being known as a hard-working player, being one of the hardest-working players in the league, and that's something that, as a Giants fan, obviously we had our own quote-unquote diva wide receiver last year who's certainly one of the best players in all of football, but also got a lot of attention for what he would do on the sidelines and what he would do, whatever. The popular opinion was that Odell Beckham was liked in the locker room, because he worked hard and because, if anything, maybe he just wanted to win so much that he didn't know how to handle losing, and he's kicking nets over and he's crying. Does it come down to simply when you're on a team like, hey, I know that guy goes out there and works hard in practice every day. I know that guy goes out and gives 110% on the field on Sunday. That's all I need to know about this guy? Or what point do you start shifting the balance toward, man, I really wish this dude was not – like, I really wish after every game I didn't get a question about what my teammate was doing with a net and what he was – where he threw his helmet and what he did.
Yeah, I think they were already transitioning guys out of there no matter what, and he was one of the guys, right? So when you looking at rebuilding your team and having the right people in there who you see as the right people going forward, because they got rid of Landon Collins and Vernon. Well, they got rid of about 3 or 4 big guys.
Yeah.
Right.
Snacks.
Yeah. You got rid of 3 or 4 big guys who were obviously not the problem of you losing, but you're already losing games with those guys in your team. So let's start rebuilding now. You got big contracts out there, guys you have to pay. So you already making a decision. Now the problem is when sometimes it happens, the guy have to be the problem child on the way out the door because now it doesn't make sense, right? So if a guy's a good guy in and out, does everything for your team, never had any problems off the field, anything like that, and you still get rid of him, and then you end up stinking it up next year, then the fans and people are going to say, well, why you get rid of this guy? He wasn't a problem, and you kicked everybody out the door, and he wasn't a problem. So you have to have an issue on the way out the door. There's no reason why a team is just going to get rid of you, right? There has to be an issue. And at the end of the day, I would deal and play with a guy that's passionate, that you seem maybe a little over the top, maybe a little whatever you want to call him, but he cares and he wants to play and he practices hard and he goes out and produce. You can deal with those guys. The guys you can't deal with are the ones that are okay with losing, and you're sitting there getting beat week in and week out. And I've seen that before too, where you can go back in the locker room after a loss and you might have some guys in there laughing and giggling and you're looking at them like, dude, we just got our ass kicked. What's so funny? And you want to get rid of those guys because losing doesn't bother them.
I just want to ask one more thing, and then we'll get to a lighter subject. But one question I have for you in terms of the way some of these guys, like what's happening with Antonio Brown right now, what's happening with Odell Beckham, you get the Tom Brady's coming off the field and throwing their helmet and screaming at people. You get Phillip Rivers on the sideline with just the stinkiest face. Did somebody take a shit on the sideline? Like he's just so angry. And I feel like these quarterbacks, like, oh man, these guys are so fiery and they care so much. But one receiver comes off and throws his helmet down, and now it's this big thing. What part of that, in your opinion, is that these quarterbacks are held on a pedestal versus like this is a race issue? Like the black guys can't act up, but the white quarterbacks can do whatever they want. And they're just fiery.
Well, I can't say that. But I can't even really call it a black-white issue because look at the things that people say about Phillip, right? He always talk trash. He's this. He's that. He never shuts up. And, you're talking about a guy who doesn't even curse. Yeah. Right? So how
Phillip
much,
Fudge and Rivers.
Yeah. So how much trash can they really be talking? But like I said, it's one of the things when you're on the way out the door, you have to have a problem. Antonio Brown's been doing that since he came into the NFL. People say he changed whatever, but go back to his first couple of years. I mean, he's thrown some helmets or had the sideline antics or whatever you want to call it, but he was producing. They knew he was going to be there for a long time. And when it's time for you to go, now it's the problem. And you have to have a reason to be on the way out the door. And I'm not giving him a pass. I'm just saying that is most cases when guys are on the way out.
One last thing on the receivers and what we're projecting. What's your take on the Browns? Now, everyone's on them, Shawne. The Vegas has their over-under at about 9 wins. I'm saying it's not going to work out. You got a brand new coach. You got a lot of personalities. Everyone's on them. I think people were sleeping on the Steelers, sleeping on the Ravens, who we talked about earlier. Do you think the Browns win the division?
Yeah.
You do?
I do. Because you got some other parts still trying to be figured out. I think that with the Steelers, they're going to get a rude awakening about Antonio Brown not being there. And it's nothing against Juju. It's that coming out being the man, being number one for the first time is difficult. And you have to not only physically be okay with that, but mentally knowing that you're going to start getting double covered. And you're not going to get the ball. And we all know how receivers get sometimes when they don't get the football. So that's going to be one adjustment. Somebody else is going to be the number one as far as the targets and stuff like that because Juju can play. You're going to come out and stop him first. And then you got Cincinnati, right?
They're going to be bad.
They're going to be bad, and I think that the fan we know it. So the most exciting team really to watch is the Cleveland Browns. Yeah. I would say the only thing that's going to keep them back is because they're so excited. They got so many big names. Is they can't buy into the expectations, right? They can't they can't have the attitude that they're supposed to win a division. They have to literally go out there and play one game at a time, and there's a lot of stars in that team.
And a lot of guys who maybe doesn't seem like it's in their personality to not go big or go home, Like you got Baker, you got Odell. I'm on
Landry.
I'm with you. I do think the Browns win the division, and I think the Browns win the division because we've got all these stars on offense. Their defense is fucking good.
It's good.
Yeah.
We're not even talking about Miles Garrett. And, I spent some time with him in the offseason. Myles Garrett is one of the best defensive players in the league.
Yeah.
And, I think he cut 10 pounds. He's looking like lean right now. He was boxing during the offseason and doing some stuff.
I mean, just in one preseason game, he's just beating
yeah, he's a monster all the way around. And sometimes when you got a lot of stars in the team, what happened with stars is that they outwork each other. And I've seen that because we had 11 Pro Bowlers on one team, one of the teams I played for with the Chargers. And you can watch practice, and we were just like, I mean, guys were full sprinting every time, and you wouldn't want to be last to the football, and you were trying to rip every ball out and, fumble recovery. I mean, we got after each other every single day. And I think that's what you're going to have with the Browns. But also –
is that good or is that bad?
That's great because what's happening is Myles Garrett, he's not a super outgoing guy. I think he said something about him playing video games and kind of just laying back and stuff like that. But, it's a lot of eyeballs on the offense side of the ball. And if you don't think that the defense is saying they're getting overlooked and they're going to play just as hard, and they have to now you got competition every day in practice. So you got guys that is going against Odell Beckham. You got guys going against Juice Landry. What happened when they're going to see guys in the game who's not better than them? They're going to have to step their game up because they forced to every single day.
Yeah.
So they're naturally just going to be better players. So it's going to be exciting for them. The only thing I can possibly see is they have so many big names. They got so many superstars that they can't buy into. We're automatically going to win because of that.
Gotcha.
Well, hopefully just being the Cleveland Browns will help them.
Right.
Keep their heads.
Yeah.
So what are you doing? You came from a workout. What are you doing for workouts these days?
I do a lot of MMA
I see your
training.
Videos.
Yeah, I do a lot of.
The one you had so much sweat.
Oh yeah.
Just uncontrollable amount.
A couple of days a week I'll go down and train in Long Beach with some guys, get some sparring session in, some good work. And I like to mix it up. I'll lift weights 4 or 5 days a week, and I'll throw 3 or 4 days of training in.
You think Shawne can handle Andy's little beach workout? I mean, I know you play at the highest level, but I got this workout. We call it Andy's little beach workout. It's pretty intense.
A lot of running and push-ups on the beach.
Well,
for sometimes up to 30 minutes at a time.
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't do little guys workouts,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't. You got guys and they don't want to do
a little
all.
guy. It's a little beach.
So you're going in there talking about running for 30 minutes and. See, the reason why I do a lot of MMA stuff, it keeps me late, and I really do. I like to fight.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the contact of. And I'm not you.
The whole Phillip Rivers thing. I was just joking. He's totally clutch.
No, but you go in there, and I like to be competitive, and obviously I have the MMA league with Lights Out Extreme Fighting. I get a chance to train with a lot of these guys. Yeah. And it's kind of me still keeping my competitive edge and being able to go on out and compete.
And you have a big upcoming fight, right?
Yeah.
With your league?
Yeah, we have Lights Out Extreme Fighting at Commerce Casino on September 21st. Huge card that we got coming up, two title belts on the line. And we'll be sold out here in the next week or two.
I was gonna say, Joe, we got to go to that.
Commerce.
You come, man. I mean, there's no when you walk in there, you're at a Lights Out fight because the intensity in there is just unreal.
I've actually never been to a MMA fight.
Well, and that's why we love being kind of local, right? We stay in Southern California here. We're at the Burbank Marriott. We're at the Commerce Casino, and we'll probably move further down the highway, further down the road. But we love staying there because a lot of people who don't get a chance to go see MMA fights other places, they come and check ours out, and that's why they love it.
Where can people get tickets for that?
At lightsoutxf.com. And we go on sale. I think next week the tickets go on sale.
Okay.
And we always go on sale about a month before the event because we sell out pretty fast.
We're going.
If you guys want to go, I mean,
we'd love to go. When is it? What's
September 21st at Commerce Casino.
I mean, maybe I'll ramp up my little workout, get myself ready for some MMA.
Come get an amateur fight. See how that feels.
Shawne, I would get destroyed.
Andy already had a brain injury.
Yeah, I already had
one. A sidewalk.
I already had one brain injury because I got too drunk. I don't need one where I'm actually fighting people. What would be my weight class? I'm probably about $165. Is there even a weight class for that?
Yeah, well, you can drop down to 140. I think you can drop 20 and fight at 147.
I don't think you should. I think you should definitely not fight.
We can get you there in about 3 or 4 weeks.
Can I fight with a helmet?
I don't even think the amateur fight with a helmet. So.
I walk in with shoulder pads and a helmet. I'd still probably die.
You're gonna need Antonio Brown's helmet. I need the very specific one. I need the old Shure helmet.
I know. That's exactly what I need. we got to bring up now that Sean's here. We have our mutual friend who has become your official fill-in on this show.
Oh, Tug Coker.
Tug Coker.
Yeah.
So
That's my boy.
I know it's so funny. So you acted in first one of Now We're Talking, and Joe and I were actually in season 2, which they're still working on getting out there. Any acting on the horizon for you, Sean?
Yeah, with some other stuff. I try to do things where I can be in and out.
Yeah.
Right? Like I try to stay away from like the reoccurring roles. I got to be somewhere for 3 months. I'm just the league, man. I love doing it. It's what I wake up to do. And I try to just stick to one good thing. And if I got time to pop in on a set here and then, Tug will tell you, I do my thing sometimes.
I already think you're a great actor. You did.
Yeah.
You had the whole Phillip Rivers thing. You said it with a straight face.
Yeah.
He's a better quarterback than Eli
You got to
Manning.
teach
Just nailed
Sean.
it.
Sean's got to teach me he's got to teach me the lights out dance.
Yeah. Well, you got to have me back on. You know, the good thing is when I come on, like y'all fans are the craziest and most rabid. They like come back on.
They're nuts, right?
So if
They're like the Raiders fans of podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
They're the,
If
Bill,
I-
they're
if I-
the Bills Mafia of podcasts.
if I don't come on, they're like, you better get your ass back. I'm like, okay, all right, I'm going on.
So this wall, Sean, most of these things and these bobbleheads, all our fans who we call dirtballs, the dirtball sent it. They have my address,
I think
which
we're going to need an 8x10 of Sean doing lights out.
that's what I was thinking.
I mean, we got OJ. OJ murdered 2 people.
Well, yeah.
allegedly.
Yeah. I mean, OJ, you know my feelings on OJ.
He's good on Twitter.
Yeah.
Are you
Honestly,
following
he's
OJ's
killing the
Twitter?
You know what? Other people who I follow, they retweet them,
Yeah.
so I see it.
It's like
Yeah.
it's like Donald Trump.
Yeah,
Like, I don't
So
follow him, but I see them all.
I don't think I follow him, but if I don't, it's always other people who retweet him, and I get a chance to see it.
Yeah. Don't
Yeah.
follow him into a Brentwood mansion.
No.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I follow his Twitter. I always love when he's I don't know what his move is though. Like, what's OJ's move? Because this has to be playing up for something, right?
He got over 1 million or something now, right? He got big pretty fast.
Yeah. On
And
Twitter, yeah.
I remember going to do a signing in New Jersey some years ago, and I remember the line just being wrapped around the corner and out the door for him. So it's kind of weird that people have this like this thing infatuation about him.
I do. It's terrible. He's a murderer.
But but the thing is,
Allegedly.
you watch him. No, I'm saying you watch him though, and it's like one of these things you can't stop watching. It's like you get cringy a little bit,
Yeah.
but you keep watching. So I guess that
It's
it's
like
a lot.
that-
But it's a lot of cringiness on social media that we just how many like one thing I can't watch and I always do is when it's like somebody break a bone, right?
Yeah.
A bad injury. And I know it's coming, and I'm like, I don't want it because it's gonna give me that cringe feeling.
Yeah.
And I get that cringe feeling every time.
Do you think, as someone who played football, and I'm being serious with this, do you think OJ has CTE? Because I've seen a lot of that, especially based on his social media. They said he seems delayed. He's kind of out of it.
It's
Do you
hard
see
because
any
he's
of that?
what 60. He's what 65. Something
Yeah,
like that,
he's
70.
older.
It's hard because I know people that played football that has the 65 plus and completely fine. I mean, someone got like a little limp because of the knee or hip. They had a hip replaced or something. And completely fine. You see some guys, you're like, oh well, he could. It's possible, but you never really know.
Sure.
Well,
Sean, it's always a pleasure having you on. We got to get you on more, man. Now that you've I told you before the show, I believe you're the third Pro Bowler to sit on this couch, and unlike Pat McAfee, you wore pants.
yeah, and with him,
Love Pat, but
yeah, I love Pat too. That's my man. He if he didn't have on flip flops and like flops, they have on board shorts or like
They had like Jorts.
Jorts.
like Jorts.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
customized jorts.
Oh, okay, that sounds about right. Tank top.
Tank
Yeah,
top.
tank
Okay,
top.
You know it.
yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds about right.
And we learned something that Pat loves ribs from Applebee's. He's a fan.
That's when you live in the Midwest. Keon.
See?
That's when you live in the
See,
Midwest.
Sean gets it.
I
That's
know,
because I played in Buffalo,
Yeah.
right? So the joke was when I went to Buffalo is, the hot spot was Applebee's when I moved out there. Even though they did have a bunch of great food spots that if I ever get back out there, I go hit all the time because they do have some great food spots.
Okay, we should ask him then real quick before we let him go. We're headed to Texas this week. We got some events down there. We're gonna be in. We're gonna go throughout. We're gonna be in the Dallas area, the Houston area. Is there any spots off the top of your head, as a guy who played? Like you got to go eat there.
It's a really good. I can't think of it off my head, but it's a really good steak joint in Dallas that when we played them down there, we'll go to. Let me think of that. I'll text you, but it's a
Cool.
It's a really good steak spot.
I don't know if we're gonna be able to eat steak after.
Tell Sean what we're doing.
We're attempting to. It's like the Big Texas Challenge or something like
It's
that.
called the Big Texan. This restaurant.
72-ounce steak, salad, shrimp cocktail. What was that? Baked potato and a roll.
Oh yeah,
In an hour.
You won't be able to go anywhere.
They put you on a stage.
You think you could eat 72 ounces of steak?
That's a lot. I think 36 maybe the most that I've ever done.
And we're both going to try this, Joe.
Yeah, that's
this guy played in the NFL.
Yeah.
I believe it or not, I'm not even a huge eater. Like I don't eat, maybe 3 times a day tops, but 72, good luck
I'm
with
not
that.
a huge eater either, but my thing is, like Eli Manning, I have the clutch gene.
Oh,
so even though
go.
people don't think I'm gonna get, my brain just might go to.
This is
where we go, Sean.
This is where we got to end it here. Yeah. It's going to start back up.
Well, Sean, where can everybody follow you on social media?
Follow me at Shawne Merriman and lightsoutxf.com so you get tickets for September 21st at Commerce Casino.
Cool, and we'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be there. Southern California Dirtballs. You got to come and join us there, Sean. It's always awesome.
Appreciate it, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. All right, guys, have a great week. And I'm ready to end it without even saying our sign off. And most importantly, stay dirty. That was the worst ending ever.